Greetings, this is the Grumpy Old Slan, and today we're going to go through the second issue of Métal Hurlant, the French comic book magazine. The cover is by Philippe Drouillet, which is very typical art from him. Philippe Drouillet also wrote the editorial this time, so the first editorial was by Jean-Pierre. So this one seems to be mostly a very brief response to some of the critics of the magazine, and one of them being that the plot of several of the stories could be tighter, if there is a plot at all. And the response here is that, well, comic books is more than just that. It's more than just a plot. It is images and text, and evoking a mood could be enough. And in spite of people's criticisms, the creators of Métal Hurlant intend to continue having fun and publish what they want in a fun way. And if we don't hear the straight, boring intelligentsia critics, it is because we have a banana in our ear. That is literally the last sentence in this editorial. So, matching their actions to their words, if you will. After an ad, we have a table of contents, something that was sorely lacking in the previous issue. One of the nice things about the table of contents is that we will be able to see the title of the first story by Drouillet, which is quite hard to read over here. It is called Gail, Gail. So not much narrative. It is about the planet of Gail, where strange architectures are built from which spaceships would leave to dump criminals on Sainte Marie des Anges, which was a penal colony, it seems. Those who refuse to work will be turned into literal zombies who will have to work. They're told that they don't have names anymore, but numbers. Two of the prisoners talk, for which they're of course reprimanded. And once they are dropped on the penal colony, the captain tells them that from now on they're not his responsibility anymore, and you will discover life on this penal colony where death is hope. Next, we have some sort of essay by Möbius, one of those stream of consciousness type things. An ad for Vampirella, and a one-page story written by Jean-Pierre and drawn by Mandrika. So Mandrika, like Möbius, like Jean-Pierre, like Drouillet, was published in the pages of Pilote and other older comic book magazines. And in the early 70s, there was dissatisfaction with the direction the editors of these magazines were going in. And so several new comic book magazines appeared. Métal Hurlant is one of them. Mandrika was part of the founding group of a different one called L'Écho des Savanes, the Echoes of the Savannah, but was willing to draw for Métal Hurlant. So this is the story of Jules Leclerc, and it starts with a little recap of the previous chapters, which as far as I know have never been. After having defeated the Emperor Meng, Jules Leclerc decided to purchase a house, and a representative of Vega Real Estate brings him to visit a planetoid. It's magnitude 14 with a breathable atmosphere, and it could be for you for only 1,000 galactic credits plus taxes. Jules hesitates, and he says, "Oh, but you've seen nothing yet. Look at these idyllic views, thousands of hectares of fresh fruits, and where the best game in the galaxy is to be found. The locals are docile and will treat you like a god." Jules then says, "Yeah, for what it is, it's a good price, but I was more thinking of a little house with a garden." To which the real estate agent said, "Stop, don't say anything else, and follow me." And we're told the story continues on page 27, which we will get to, but before that, let's see what's on the way. We have another Harzak story, so different spelling, but it is Arzak, Möbius's famous character, who seems to be flying over a plain of what appears to be strange grasses. the other bird flies too low, and the grasses turn out to be like weird tentacles, reach out, grab it, and it is consumed. This plane is quite large. Eventually he sees a sort of structure where he maybe could stop and rest, but there's a very large ape-like creature on it. He will nevertheless land. He tricks the creature into falling off, almost. He stops, he has a rest and a meal, while the ape creature just hangs there and its claws slowly slip until he falls into the tentacles, and that's the end of the story. And now we have the continuation of the Jules Leclerc story. The real estate agent brings him to a large castle-like construction, telling him that the previous owner was an architect from Deneb 14. He abandoned everything, including 52 frozen wives, and to which Jules says it's worrisome, there must be some sort of catch. The real estate agent says, a catch? I'm giving you my word as a vegan that there is no catch. And Jules says, okay, you've convinced me. And as the real estate agent takes off in his rocket, Jules thinks 1,000 credits for all this is really cheap. We're also told that the story continues on page 66. So we'll get to it. But meanwhile, we have another story by Jean-Pierre of the Armies of the Conqueror. While the drawings are different, the introductory text is the same about how in these days the armies of the conqueror left to conquer the world. None knew where they came from, only that one day they would be there. Sometimes they were stopped, sometimes even they had to back down, but always they came back, and the vanquished would go and swell their ranks. And now this is about a night where a battalion camps at the foot of the Varig Mountains. The men rest before having to go back into battle. We cut to a fire around which some soldiers are talking. One of them is telling a tale. Him and a companion decided to go hunting. They're attacked by some large tiger. The beast claws at the face of one man. The other manages to kill it, but the beast bites his hand. And that's when we find that the man who has scars on his face from the claws of the tiger says, and this is how my brother saved my life. And then the brother says, and this is how I lost my fingers. And he shows his hand where all four fingers except for his thumb are missing. He leaves in a huff. And a soldier asks, well, what's up? He goes, oh, I shouldn't have. I thought he'd have gotten used to it by now. It's my fault. And then the other one says, no, it's my fault. I asked you about your scars, but not without a reason. I was told that there's a healer beyond these hills in a crumbling tower who can heal the worst wounds and even grow back amputated limbs. To which the scarred man says, take my watch, I will be back before dawn. And as he leaves, in the tower of the healer, we hear the voices of the healer talking to someone or something. Look what you did with him. You know very well he'll be yours when I'm done with him. To which a growl responds, what? You want to talk back? Oh no, you have smelled something. There's someone outside. It's busy tonight. And we see our soldier approaching. The healer comes out and asks, is there someone here? Show yourself. But the soldier does not show himself. He says, oh, you don't want to show yourself? Well, we'll see. And then a strange man-beast creature opens the gates, to which all these weird lizards and other creatures come out. They attack the soldier. And then we cut back inside the tower to where we see the healer clearly for the first time. He's sitting in front of a fire saying, oh, a good seat, a good fire, while outside people kill each other. That's life. And then he hears his beast moaning and he goes, well, what's wrong with you? What happened? And the soldier comes in, his sword is bloody, and just says, I'm bringing it back to you. At this point, the healer loses any bravado and asks him not to hit him. And the soldier says, no, I'm not going to do anything to you. I came to ask you for a service. The healer asks what the service is, and he says, well, I've been told about you. My brother has been accidentally amputated. To which the healer says, say nothing more. I know what you want. It is done. Really? Yes, you can go back to your camp. I can assure you that your brother's fingers are already growing back. The soldier thanks him and takes his leave. He comes back. He sees the man who told him about the healer, tells him, see, I didn't lose time. And he says, and your brother, did you not meet him? He goes, meet him? Yeah, another soldier told him about the healer. He also went to see him. An hour later, the armies had to go back into combat. The soldier never saw the tower, nor the healer, nor his brother again, and as the years went by, he never forgot, and on certain nights he would wake up screaming because of an image. His brother chained under the watch of the beast man, his right hand nailed to a chopping block, and his fingers interminably growing, while the healer chops it off with an evil smile. So another really hard-hitting story. More personal, this one, than the previous one. Dionne willing to push and showing that there are more stories than war than just that of big armies. There are some personal ones that are ancillary to the battles that the armies fight. A good story with a really, truly horrible ending. Next, we have a story by Mébius with a long title, which seems to be mostly made of a series of puns on Métal Hurlant. So the title is L'homme étal hurlant, l'homme étal hurlant, l'homme étal hurlant, Métal Hurlant. It concerns a being who lands on a planet which is clearly Earth, lands in the desert, takes on the appearance of an average person, so he would be incognito, walks for a few days exploring, approaches a city where he meets a man who seems to be expecting him. Then, as he turns to get into a car, the man shoots him. This is where we find that even though he appears dead, he will manage to survive and kill his assailant. And this is where we find out that some probes came ahead of time, conditioned the person who was meeting him, yet somehow the conditioning didn't take. He doesn't understand why he was killed. It ends with the being eating the liver of the man and resolving to find how come the conditioning did not take. It's well written, surprisingly so for someone mostly known as an artist. I enjoyed it. Next, after Nad, we have Going Home by Richard Corbin. More of a science fiction tale. A spaceship approaches an asteroid. We find out that the captain, who's quite aged, had a heart attack. He tells his two crewmen his life is almost over, but he would like to go home before he dies. And when this will be over, this spaceship will belong to you. It is all I can leave you. The people of Earth will not recognize your rights because you are artificials, you're androids. So as soon as I'm dead, you must flee. No one ever had a better son or daughter. They leave the captain to rest, and one asks, what should we do? The other one says what he told us, but what should we do if he dies? He goes, I don't know. They arrive back to Earth, and he says, what a view. I never thought I'd see it again. One of the androids tells him that they'll go on many more trips, and the captain responds, yes, there will be many more trips for you. Asked if they will see Terran vessels, the captain responds, I don't know. I left so long ago and things were happening so fast. From here it seems so quiet. He mentions that the cloud cover seems thicker, and then he has another heart attack. The androids try to revive him, but he is dead. They decide to go and bury him on Earth, like as he wanted. They analyze the atmosphere, find out it has a lot of CO2, water, argon, and traces of oxygen. They are going to need to take spacesuits and a shovel. They bury the captain. They wonder how different it is from what he told them. And it turns out that from his point of view, he was gone 60 years, but 500,000 years have passed. And it seems that only the simplest forms of life have managed to survive. They realize the captain was the last of his race. One wonders what the disappearance of the human race means. The other one responds that it means nothing and that we are here. We are so small. What will we do? We will do what the captain showed us. We have the entire universe. We will miss him. The end. Next, we have Confessions of a Crazy Reader by Jean-Pierre, which is another column like the last issue where he goes over genre books and gives his critiques of what's interesting that has come out. Interestingly enough, it's illustrated with an old pulp illustration. I know I've seen this image before. I think it's from Amazing, but I'm not 100% sure. And that $300 for best stories written around this picture was part of the cover. It was like a way for Hugo Gernsback to get new writers in. A lot of the focus is on Marabout, one of the French publishers, who he says is quite fantastic. It has esoteric, romantic, science fiction, fantastic literature, and he highlights some of the ones he prefers. And he concludes with a little postscriptum saying that last time, which was the first time in the previous issue, he had written a little bit too much and the editor forced him to cut some wordage. In desperation, he had to remove an entire paragraph, but instead of just tossing it and forgetting all about it, he presents it here. And it's about a new book by Lovecraft with some help by Hurlant. Also a collection of short stories by Clark Ashton Smith, which he doesn't appreciate too much. He prefers Smith's paintings and drawings, and he recommends a US publication called The Fantastic Art of Clark Ashton Smith. Just a quick recap of some of the titles that are mentioned: The Man in the High Castle, The Castle of Otranto, Wasp by Eric Frank Russell, which is an excellent book. Quite a few titles. There's also a mention of Cities and Scenes from the Ancient World, which is a collection of drawings by Roy Krenkel, an artist who really deserves to be better known. He had a huge influence on the genre. Next, we have a short piece by Drouillet called Ars. It's about some soldiers. One of them mentions how he's sick of it. They're in this godforsaken place. The rocket is down. Somebody says to stop complaining. Reinforcements will surely arrive soon. He goes a bit crazy, attacks one of his companions. Somebody manages to stop him, and the shooting starts again. And then we zoom out, and we see some strange little alien sitting on the ground, and the feet of a very large one that look like the same kind of feet as the small alien. And a voice says, "Ars, are you done tossing pebbles on these insects? Stop playing and come inside." We next have a short story by Drouillet, which is surrounded by a Major Grubert story by Möbius on either side. I know this story was colorized and published in Faragonesia if anybody wants to find it in English. So we have Le Lac des Cygnes, Swan Lake, which is about how the famous Tchaikovsky piece starts a deadly interstellar war. A very surreal tale in a way, both the Möbius strip and the Drouillet story. We have some ads. We have another Jules Leclerc page. So just as a reminder, he's just bought a planetoid, but he's worried that it's a con, that there's a catch somewhere. Still worried, he decides to go to bed. He sleeps, but he hears some noise. He grabs a rope and slides down to the balcony, wondering what's happening. And a train goes right by his house. And that is presumably the conclusion. A couple of ads, and that is the end of this issue of Métal Hurlant. I'm glad to see there are more artists and writers contributing, though the large majority of the content is still by Dionnet, Drouillet, and Möbius. But at least we have a few other people, Mandrika and others, who contribute a few pages here and there. We know this will improve, but it's that transition. A couple of people decide to do a magazine because they have things to say, and if they don't let others in, then after a few issues, the magazine would have died. This has been the Grumpy Old Slan, looking at the second issue of Métal Hurlant, and I'll see you next time.